Battlefield once was the king of massive multiplayer shooters, its future now uncertain thanks to 2042. Battlefield has become well known for its large-scale multiplayer battles, its attention to detail, and its cheeky sense of dark humor. But much like anything, I'm willing to bet that there are some things about the Battlefield franchise that I bet you didn't know. In my opinion, Battlefield 1 was the best the franchise had ever been. Its unique setting provided DICE with the freedom to go where no shooter has gone before. I mean, look at the list of games set in World War I compared to the list of video games set in World War II. Battlefield 1 was also filled with a lot of information relating to the weaponry from the time period and was considered pretty historically accurate. Granted, they handled way better than anything they would have had at the time, but I think that can be summed up by what Patrick Bark, the vice president of DICE, said at E3 2016.
So we wanted to take that package and go back to the roots of what Battlefield is all about, the all-out war, and show the world for the first time what World War I could be. What it could look like.
If you want a more detailed breakdown of the weaponry, I highly recommend the video that Jonathan Ferguson did with GameSpot. Now, there's a range of weapons in the game, ranging from the iconic, like the Lewis Einfield, to the downright bizarre, like the Colibri, which to this day is the smallest gun ever made, which makes this weapon all the more interesting. Called the Stanshotzel Regal... Called the Stanshotzel Hell Regal, there's a total of 3, count 'em, 3 known images of the weapon. The only reason we know it existed is because of these images, and it appears to be an early version of the submachine gun. However, there's next to no evidence proving that this gun actually existed, nor any evidence suggesting that it ever made to the front lines, meaning information about it has unfortunately been lost to time. So here are some quickfire Easter eggs that are worth mentioning, but they're so minor that they don't require a full spot. On the map Operation Riverside in Battlefield 3, near the edge of the map, you can find a futuristic drone referencing Battlefield 2142. On the map Marquez Monolith, you can find red shoes at the edge of a roof referencing Mirror's Edge, which is also developed by DICE. Behind a hidden wall on the map Epicenter, you can find Isaac's helmet from Dead Space. In Bad Company 2, 2 people can be heard chatting while operating a UAV. Which is taken from US military footage in Iraq during a strafing run.
Any movement? I had one guy trying to re-engage. Alright, I don't see any movement.
In a similar fashion, the teaser trailer for Battlefield 3 has someone yelling out "Holy shit" in panic. Holy shit! Which is taken from an actual recording from a US Air Force pilot after having several missiles fired at him. On the map Hainan Resort, at the top of the Objective C, you can find a pickup sniper rifle. Lying in a specific spot, you'll find a light on one of the wrecked ships, and shooting it will cause it to explode. This was originally supposed to be the original Levolution for the map, however was removed due to time constraints. Hardline has a drivable couch that would sometimes randomly spawn on the map Dust Bowl. It also has a hidden room in Grand Bazaar with what sounds like Gizmo in one of the boxes from Gremlins. You can find a sword in a bonfire on the map Rupture in Battlefield 1, referencing Dark Souls. Claymores in Battlefield 2 say the following text, I'm not going to try and read it myself, which is Swedish for "this side towards the enemy." There's also boxes that say this, which is Swedish for "large box with things in it." Picking up 3 gold coins in the Narvik campaign in Battlefield 5 will cause this to happen. Which is a reference to the self-aware whale in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. There's also a character in that movie that shares the same name as a Radiohead song. And finally, in the shooting range in Battlefield 5, you can find a smiley face referencing Bad Company 1. There's also a pile of trash, which most people think is a reference to Fortnite, but is actually a reference to Battlefield 2042. Reloading isn't overly exciting.
Whoa, what the fuck?
However, in Battlefield 5, while using the M1 Garand, there's a chance this will happen. What just happened is known as Garand Thumb, which is when you don't push the clip in correctly and the bolt slams against your thumb. But that doesn't even come close to what 4 and Hardline have. The following reload animations have about a 1 in 10,000 chance of being activated. Roughly 4.5 million people bought Hardline, so theoretically, only 450 people have actually encountered this, or roughly 0.01%. This is the only one in Battlefield 4 for the Unica 6. And the ones in Hardline include the .10 Jury.
Suspect neutralized.
The Bald Eagle.
Got a suspect.
The RPG 7v2.
Got that one.
The M16A3. The RO933. The 93R. And finally, the AKM.
What the hell? Oh, I was hovering the grenade. What?
The history of the Battlefield franchise begins with a game called Codename Eagle, developed by Refraction Games, which was set in an alternate timeline where World War I didn't happen, nor did the October Revolution, and Germany hadn't really established themselves as a global power. The game was released in 2000, and while receiving some mixed reception, it got the attention of another Swedish studio called Digital Illusions Creative Entertainment, or DICE for short. They acquired Refraction, began development of Battlefield 1942, and released it in 2002 to critical acclaim. However, before the idea of a World War II military shooter, there was another game that was proposed called Urban Combat, with a focus on dragons, knights, and magic. No, it had a focus on urban combat, clues in the title. It was essentially just a cops and robbers game. While a few prototypes were made and the concept sounded really cool, they couldn't get it to work in practice, so the game was cancelled in favour of a military shooter. However, this concept would not go to waste, as 14 years later this would serve as the basis for the incredibly underrated Battlefield Hardline, a game with a heavy focus between their rivalry between cops and robbers. And it's easily the best game in the franchise because the radio plays a Death Grips song. On the map Wake Island in Battlefield 5, you can find crabs around the map. Some will run away, while some will burrow. If you find 5 that burrow, they will appear near a plaque at the edge of the map, alongside a pair of headphones and a gramophone. In the bunker at D, there's an AMCOM station playing Morse code that points to different points around the map with hidden records, each of them playing themes from the past Battlefield games that had Wake Island in them. Do this enough times and a final record will appear. Take this back to the gramophone, play it, and this happens. Now I'm sure you can guess this is a cheeky little reference to the song Crab Rave, which was a meme back in 2019. You also get to hear a pretty sweet remix of the Battlefield theme. In the third mission of Battlefield 3, a rat will begin to harass you while you're hiding from the enemy, forcing you to stab it to progress.
Come out in the open! Hiding will be seen as an act of aggression!
Now, the amazing people over at People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, or PETA,
the horse is here.
got very upset with EA and DICE for adding this sequence to the game, stating, quote, "The realistic computer game Battlefield 3 treats animals in a sadistic manner. The game gives the players the opportunities to kill a rat with a combat knife in order to then lift it by its tail and toss it away. Killing virtual animals can have a brutalizing effect on the young male target audience." That's just straight up sexist, but okay. There have been repeated cases of animal cruelty in Germany. Inspiration behind these acts often came from movies and computer games. I mean, compared to everything else in the Battlefield games, this is where they draw the line? Like, seriously? Mass murder? Perfectly fine. Destruction of war?
That's a tank!
Fantastic! Foul language?
What the fuck? Fucked up. Pretty fucking shit.
Fucking guy out! Fucked up. The fucking guy, fuck up!
Son of a bitch. Shit, motherfucker. Fuck. Fucking fuck ass bitch. Fuck. Fucking mad kid.
Fucking amazing. Stabbing a rat? Too fucking far, bruh. My favorite thing about this is that straight afterwards, the character begins swearing his ass off like he just learned how to and he knows that his parents aren't watching.
In about half an hour, this place is gonna be every fucking man for himself. Come on, let's get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, you know what? I just forgot to do something.
Now stand back, I gotta practice my stabbing.
Misfit, this is Misfit.
But you do actually have to kill the rat, by the way, or you get casually shot in the face, so I think killing a digital rat, an animal that is considered a pest, by the way, isn't really that bad in the grand scheme of things. Battlefield has become well known for its absolute batshit insane unlockables that require you to do some pretty batshit insane things. The Peacekeeper from Battlefield 1, for example, requires you to solve several intense logic puzzles involving Morse code, cryptic messages, and a really fucking annoying directional puzzle right at the end. Or how about Dragon Valley, which requires you to... here we go. Turn on 20 lights with 7 buttons, and while one button may turn that light on, another might turn it back off. Oh, and all 7 of the buttons are spread across the map, and one's inside a fucking tree. How the fuck did people find this? Then you gotta decipher Morse code, decipher a clue, punch in a code, decipher more Morse code to find out another code, and then go to a water tower during a ranked conquest match and punching that code into another keypad only to hear Neve from Battlefield friends yelling out to unlock the DICE LA skin. Did that sound complicated? Because it's even worse putting it into practice because it's unique every match. There's another lesser known unlockable in Battlefield 4 that's a lot less convoluted and it still unlocks a pretty cool item. So, on the map Nanchas Strike, there was a bunch of clues pointing towards a Megalodon Easter egg in the map. Players later discovered that if you get 10 people to surround a boy, this happens. Now, after this was discovered, people started searching on other maps to see if there were similar Easter eggs, and some clues began to point towards a Megalodon Easter egg on the map Paracel Storm. For example, on the map Lupini Garden, there's a stencil of Paracel Storm with Chinese saying, "The monster is real." There's also this saying, "Paracel plus something scratched out equals Megalodon." After several months of searching, players turned up next to nothing, before one of the Battlefield developers tweeted that while it was initially in the game, it wasn't completely finished and hadn't been activated due to it being too similar to the one on Nanchas Strike. However, thanks to the community test environment version of Battlefield 4, the incomplete version was added to the CTE version and was later added to the full game. To trigger it, you gotta land on a wind turbine, wait to be struck by lightning, climb a weirdly bent tree, and shoot a light in the ocean. Before long, a UFO will appear, inspecting the place before crashing into the ocean. And then... the Megalodon will appear. And everyone can see this, by the way. Doing this will unlock the unique skin DICE for all classes.
Shall we continue? Describe in single words only the good things that come into your mind. About your mother?
My mother?
Yeah.
Let me tell you about my mother.